WADR. Promoting dialogue. It's May Day in Dakar, 1 p.m. in Porto Novo. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa, the Democracy Radio broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are the top stories. ECOWAS appoints Senegalese President Diomaye Faye as facilitator between the regional bloc and the Alliance of Sahel states over their decision to exit the community.
President Diomaye Faye has all the credentials required to serve as a facilitator for ECOWAS, and that is what the leaders have recognized.
German army announces decision to leave its air transport base in Niger after unsuccessful negotiations with military junta. 2023 UN Office on Drugs and Crime survey reveals more than 1 million people in Liberia said to be consuming drugs and other dangerous substances.
If the drugs that are being brought in and trafficked to Liberia targets the young people, definitely it means it targets the future of Liberia.
Over 30 leaders and civil society organizations are meeting in Senegal to build a solidarity movement for democratic renewal in Africa. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast, and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Let's begin in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, where regional leaders gathered yet again to assess, recommend, and set new goals for the sub-region at a time it is confronted by cascading challenges. The weekend marked a pivotal movement for West Africa after ECOWAS appointed President Bassirou Diomaye Faye as the facilitator between the regional bloc and the three coup states, namely Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Recall, these countries, ruled by the military, have decided to exit the community. The move, according to experts, is taken by the regional bloc with a view to exhausting dialogue between and before any other significant decision. The decision to appoint President Diomaye Faye to mediate talks was taken by the heads of state at the 65th Ordinary Section of Heads of Authority and Government on Sunday. WADR Sankula Janko has the rest of the details.
ECOWAS swiftly moved to appoint Bassirou Faye as the mediator between the region and the three countries. Faye, known for his calm demeanor and diplomatic fineness, will embark on a mission to bridge the gap between the departing nations and the bloc. During a press conference following the heads of state meeting, President of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Omar Toure, expressed the confidence in President Faye's ability to persuade the respective states to reconsider their decision.
President Diomaye Faye has all the credentials required to serve as a facilitator for ECOWAS, and that is what the leaders have recognized in appointing him as the facilitator of ECOWAS in the dialogue and engagement with the AES countries.
ECOWAS heads of authority and government are hoping that Faye's mediation efforts will bear fruit in the following days and months of negotiations to come. It is hoped that President Faye will entice Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger to agree to reconsider their decision to leave ECOWAS. Meanwhile, ECOWAS leaders reiterated their commitment to regional unity and development. They announced plans to implement a single currency by 2027, highlighting their determination to enhance economic integration despite the recent setbacks. Dr. Omar Toure again.
The single currency, as you would note, was one of the items on the agenda of the authority, and the time frame given for the launch of the single currency is 2027, provided the various convergence criteria are met.
Despite the numerous challenges the region is faced with, leaders pride themselves with the recent successful elections in Senegal, Sierra Leone, and Togo. From the presidential villa in Abuja, Nigeria, I'm Sankula Janko reporting for Newslink.
WADR at Sankula Janko fight that report, still on the 65th Ordinary Section of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, which ended on Sunday, focused on pivotal regional issues. Key discussions centered around the economic outlook for 2024, with projected growth at 4.3% despite global geopolitical tensions and inflationary pressures. Oge Oberika tells us more.
Leaders reiterated the importance of fiscal consolidation and sound public finance management to ensure sustainable and inclusive growth. The summit also addressed the pressing food security crisis, instructing the ECOWAS Commission to take necessary measures to support vulnerable populations and calling for collaborative efforts from technical and financial partners to combat food insecurity and malnutrition. Transport infrastructure was another critical topic, with directives issued to mitigate road damage caused by overloading and to implement the new road safety policy aimed at reducing fatalities by 50% by 2030. The high cost of air travel within the ECOWAS region was also noted, with a push for policies to reduce costs and boost tourism, trade and free movement. In the realm of peace and security, the summit commended Sierra Leone for its national unity efforts and confirmed the planned deployment of the ECOWAS stabilization mission. A robust commitment to counter-terrorism was underscored, with proposals for a regional force and enhanced collaboration with sub-regional initiatives. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria was re-elected as chair of the ECOWAS Authority, receiving accolades for his leadership.
Oge Oberika reporting there. Meanwhile, the re-elected chairman of ECOWAS, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria, says terrorist activities and violent extremism are threatening to spread from the Sahel region towards the coastal states. President Tinubu, speaking about the challenges faced by the regional bloc during the 65th Ordinary Section of Heads of Authorities and Government in Abuja, called on member states to contribute towards efforts to operationalize the ECOWAS Temba force.
We are aware of the enormous challenges, including terrorist activities and violent extremism, threatening to spread from Sahel region towards the coastal states, especially those that witnessed constitutional changes of government. The decision of the three Saharan countries of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to withdraw from ECOWAS has also been noticed. Our partners are carrying out critical intervention in countries affected by humanitarian crisis. Let me underscore that a peaceful and secure society is essential for achieving our potential. As we move to operationalize the ECOWAS Standby Force, ESF, in combating terrorism, I must emphasize that the success of this plan requires not only strong political will, but also substantial financial resources. Member states must make extra commitment on providing resources for stabilizing the region.
Chairman of ECOWAS, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's now head to Niger, where the German army has announced that it will leave its air transport base in Niamey. Berlin ultimately could not reach an agreement with the military authorities in Niamey to extend its permit to use this base, which was mainly used for evacuation operations. Francis Boniface has the details.
The German Minister of Defense announced that by August 31, its army will leave its air transport base in Niamey. Negotiations with the military in power failed as Niger refused to let German personnel keep their immunity from legal proceedings. There are currently 38 German soldiers and 33 other collaborators at the base. Germany is also unhappy with Niger's close ties to Russia and Iran, moving away from Western countries like France and the United States. By leaving the Niamey base, Germany ends its military cooperation with Niger. German soldiers have been training Nigerian special forces in Tilia, in the northern region of Tahua. This decision comes after an agreement for the German army to use the base in exchange for building a military hospital fell through. Germany now follows the likes of the French, the European forces, and the Americans in leaving Niger.
Francis Boniface reporting there. Still in Niger, the government has revoked the operating permit of the Canadian company GovX for the Maduela uranium mine near Elit due to the company's failure to meet the start date for the exploitation. The Nigerian Ministry of Mines had set a deadline for July 3, which GovEx did not comply with, resulting in the permit's withdrawal and the mine's transfer to the public domain. GovEx disputes the decision, claiming it violates the existing mining code and threatens to challenge it in court. The company also warns of negative economic and social impacts due to the loss of job opportunities in the region. This incident follows a similar action taken on June 19 against the French company Orano, formerly Arriva, which had its permit for the Imourian uranium deposit revoked. Orano has expressed a willingness to engage in dialogue with Nigerian authorities. The Imourian deposit is one of the largest uranium reserves globally, with an estimated 200,000 tons of uranium. In Liberia now, a 2023 survey conducted by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes revealed that more than 1 million people in the country are said to be consuming one or two kinds of drugs and other dangerous substances. In an effort to address the situation, the United States Office on Drugs and Crimes has outlined the importance of international partners to work with Liberia and fight the drug war. From Monrovia, Darlington Pogba reports.
Speaking over the weekend when the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency set ablaze over $300,000 United States dollars worth of dangerous drugs seized from traffickers, a representative from the United States Embassy, Stephen Cassie, said his country will roll out the necessary resources to assist Liberia, whilst calling on other partners to join the fight against drugs.
I think it's important to focus on Liberia and on LDEA today and on the successful drug burn and know that INL and the U.S. government support your efforts to fight drugs and drug trafficking in Liberia.
Speaking during the exercise, Grand Bassa lawmaker Thomas Goshua described it as a threat to national security the number of people addicted to drugs in the country.
Future leaders of Liberia are the young people, and if the drugs that are being brought in and trafficked to Liberia targets the young people, definitely it means it targets the future of Liberia. They don't want Liberia to exist. And so at the legislature, we thought to be in sync with the president and his agenda when he spoke about drugs being a national health emergency.
The officer in charge of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency, Christopher Peters, says the fight against drugs cannot be successful without resources and logistical support from partners and citizens as well.
We have 7 different categories of drugs that will be destroyed today. We have heroin, cocaine, kush, marijuana, precursor, tramadol, and methamphetamine. The grand total value in terms of dollars, in US dollar, we got $337,180 US dollar.
For now, the country is employing a number of policy reforms to fight against drug abuse in the country. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
From Liberia to Nigeria, where the government has announced plans to file a complaint with the Newspapers Proprietors Association and approach the court over a report by a newspaper, Daily Trust Newspapers, on the Samoa Agreement. The report, which the government described as fake and mischievous, claimed that Nigeria signed an agreement endorsing the rights of LGBTQ plus individuals and will receive $150 billion for endorsing the deal. Usma Umara tells us more in this report.
The Samoa Agreement was signed by Nigeria on Friday, June 28, 2024 at the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States OACPS Secretariat in Brussels, Belgium. Nigeria signed the Samoa Agreement with the EU to promote cooperation in various areas including economic development, food security, education, human rights, environmental sustainability and climate change. Atiku Bagudu, Minister of Budget and National Planning, provides further information on the agreement.
Within this agreement, there is nowhere where it is mentioned that Nigeria is going to receive 150 billion or any sum for that matter.
But following a report by a newspaper, the Daily Trust, indicating that the agreement includes provisions related to legalizing LGBTQ rights in exchange for a $150 billion controversy has been raging, with many calling for a protest against such endorsement. Soni Ekukusi, chairman African Bar Association, however, insists that the agreement does contain provisions relating to legalizing LGBTQ rights.
The Samo agreement is like signing an open check. People are talking about it contains LGBT. No, it also contains LGBT comprehensive sexuality education, teaching our kids how to have sex, how to be sterile, how to masturbate, and all that. It also contains abortion, also contains transgender.
Information Minister Mohammed Idris Malagi, speaking at a press conference in Abuja, said the report has the potential to spark religious and social tensions in the country.
The Daily Trust and the people behind it could descend to the reckless level of attempting to set the country on fire by falsely accusing the government of signing a deal to promote LGBTQ. The federal government has decided to lodge a formal complaint to the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria's Ombudsman on this irresponsible reporting.
The Samoa Agreement, signed in 2018, establishes a legal framework for cooperation between the EU and OSIWA states, promoting sustainable development, climate action, investment and international collaboration while building on legacy agreements. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS appoints Senegalese President Diomaye Faye as facilitator between the regional bloc and the Alliance of Sahel states over their decision to exit the community. German army announces decision to leave its air transport base in Niger after unsuccessful negotiations with military junta. Still ahead in the news, over 30 leaders and civil society organizations are meeting in Senegal to build a solidarity movement for democratic renewal in Africa. We do have the press review, guest interview, and the sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Thanks for joining us. And as a reminder, we are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. The apprehension about the future of democracy is becoming more widespread beyond the sub-region, following the flagrant disregard for democratic principles and the rule of law, as well as the deteriorating socio-economic conditions in democratic communities. Here in Dakar, the Senegalese capital, over 30 leaders and representatives from CSOs, pressure groups, international donors from across Africa are meeting for the next 2 days to voice concerns and build a solidarity movement for democratic renewal in Africa. The event is organized by Yaga Africa in partnership with Africtivists and the Netherlands. These developments across the continent are crucial. Akwe Amusun is the program director, Symposium on Strength and Solidarity.
There was no one who had that formal role because the organization had no structure. The movement, had no structure. And so one of these questions is, if we have no corresponding organization to talk to, how do we know what we should be doing? How do we know how to offer the solidarity that we believe is important? By contrast, let me give some examples that are positive. I have watched with admiration political action on their terms. Second, valuing difference. When we accept that those who are profoundly different from us are still fully deserving of having their human rights respected, and when we show up for those that we see as different, and they in turn show up for us, we build a stronger movement against human rights violations. And third, people who are in disagreement on key issues can still cooperate with each other where they can agree. By doing so, they will be building a stronger movement. These three things are not easy. They're all hard to do. But if you want to protect and defend others who are being mistreated, and if you want to defeat a more powerful enemy who threatens to restrict all our rights, you need to build your own power with the tools that you have.
Akwe Amosu is the program director, Symposium on Strength and Solidarity.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country. This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's now join Usma Umar in Abuja for the newspaper review.
Hello and welcome to the press review segment. Today we begin with this day newspaper, leading with this story. After re-emerging ECOWAS chair, Tinubu charges members to meet fiscal contracts. A writer to this story says Nigeria will lead by example, fulfill its financial commitments. Another story is Transmission Company of Nigeria says grid fully restored after a nationwide blackout, blames tripping of generator. Let's go now over to Daily News Hub. Rampaging bandits, gunmen in kidnapping spree in Kaduna Delta, with riders abduct 2 journalists, wives, children, ex-NLC, that is Nigeria Labour Congress president in Kaduna, kidnap juju priest, 11 devotees in Delta. We are ransacking forests, bushes, and we will ensure victims' safe return. This is from the police. Let's go over now to the next paper. First News newspaper, leading with this story. Court demands answers. Ex-ministers Umar Farouk faces scrutiny over 729 billion naira spending. Of course, the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, faced the judge on Friday, where she has been asked to account for 729 billion naira spending on intervention programs, which she claimed the money has been spent on poor Nigerian households. Of course, and finally, let's take a look at the Matrix newspaper. The Matrix has this story. Flood alert. NIMET predicts heavy rainfall from Monday. That is starting today. The Nigeria Meteorological Agency says that there will be heavy rainfall across a number of states in the country, and it starts today, being Monday. Start making sacrifices for Nigerians. Learn from Kenyan experience. Peter Obi, that is the opposition party presidential candidate of Labour Party, is urging the federal government. And finally, academic activities threatened as Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and Non-Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities set for a nationwide strike. And then these are some stories on the front page of the Matrix newspaper. And it's on this note that we draw the curtains on this edition of Press Review. And now hand you over back to the studios.
Thank you, Usman, for the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview this afternoon highlights the current developments regarding the appointment of Senegalese President Diomaye Faye by ECOWAS as facilitator between the regional bloc and 3 Sahelian states, namely Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. The move, according to experts, is taken by the regional bloc with a view to exhausting dialogue before any other significant decision. As a reminder, these 3 states have agreed to withdraw from the region, a decision that was formalized during their meetings in the Nigerian capital Niamey at the weekend. Amid these unfoldings, WADR engaged the views of international relations expert Morgan Asogba about the chances of success and impact of the proposed negotiation.
I do believe that the designation of President Diomaye Faye is the best that could happen to the integration process, the regional integration process, because he is benefiting from credit from both parties. And by both parties, I mean the ECOWAS itself and the Sahelian State Alliance. All the 3 countries have been witnessing the swearing in of President Diomaye Faye. He also went ahead and visited them in collaboration with his Prime Minister, Mr. Sonko. So this is the best that could happen, though we still have to witness the collaboration of both parties. If ECOWAS decide to remain in the current dynamics, it's the ability and the willingness to have the 3 states back in the regional integration body. I do believe that they will provide President Diomaye Faye with all the needed options that will bring them back.
How does this negotiation become successful when the 3 states have already agreed on a point of no return to the regional bloc?
The point of no return is something that goes in line with the idiosyncrasy of these 3 leaders. And it means that once the 3 leaders are no more definitely focusing on making their idiosyncrasies dominate the national politics, this could change. So in terms of interest, in terms of international relation and diplomacy, there is no such thing as no return points. They might decide to keep alliances functioning and make sure that it is effective for their own vision and objectives. But this doesn't mean that they will not be open to the regional integration process that has been initiated by ECOWAS, especially when you look at the fact that we are talking about the interests of the people and the interests of the West African people. So if they have to take into consideration these various parameters, there will be no serious no return or point of no return. And if we have to face this kind of situation, definitely time will make sure that the next leaders, aside those who are from the military regime, reconsider integrating or reintegrating the ECOWAS body. However, it is clear that President Diomaye Faye has some good work to do, and the both parties will definitely have to collaborate to make it successful.
Should the negotiation fail, what could be some of the benefits the three Sahelan states tend to lose?
I believe that there is not much to lose when we look at the current dynamics for the three Sahelian states. They have made up their mind and they have started developing some kind of resilience in terms of economy, in terms of strategy, and even in terms of regional integration, because they have decided to engage in their own initiative. However, it is clear that when it comes to the people, we are not talking anymore about the leaders. The people have a lot to lose. And if we remain in the strategy that makes democracy being the fact that leaders takes into consideration the will of the people, this makes it very difficult for them to decide to do without the ECOWAS. It is definitely important for the people to feel the ECOWAS of the people initiative that has been in the Agenda 2020 of the ECOWAS. So therefore, they have a lot to lose when you look at the interests of the people, but they have no much to lose when it has to do with their own interests and their own option of leadership.
Morgan Asogba is an international relations expert. Now, in the world of sport, reigning Africa Cup of Nations champions Cote d'Ivoire have been pulled with Zambia, Sierra Leone and Chad in the group stage of the qualifiers for the 2025 edition of the tournament. The draw for the group stage was conducted in Johannesburg, South Africa, with 48 teams split into 12 groups of 4. We have come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Mawudu for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to